White powder dropped into the whiskey glass. 2 seconds. No one in the room saw it. No one, except the woman pouring the water. She did not scream. She did not run. Her hands stayed steady as stone. 10 years ago, her father died in a car parked behind a strip mall on Cermak Road. 6 in the morning. A single bullet to the temple. The report said one word: suicide. She had been 18. She had stood in the morgue, and she had known the way only a daughter can know things about her father. They lied, so she waited. 3 years carrying trays through this restaurant, in a cheap uniform, under a name that was not her own. People thought she was a punchline. People said their secrets in front of her, exactly as she had counted on. Now the boss's enemy sits across from him. 6 guns in the room, 40 innocent people, and the poisoned glass is rising. She has 3 seconds. 2, 1. 6 months before everything burned, Bridget Callahan was buttering toast, white bread. Store brand. The cheapest kind they sold at the corner market on Halsted Street. She was 28 years old. She was 300 pounds. She was standing in the kitchen of a 2-bedroom apartment in Bridgeport, 3 blocks from the old slaughterhouse district. The radiators screamed at night. The windows did not close all the way. The rent was $400 cheaper than anywhere else in Chicago because the neighborhood had bad memories. Her mother sat in a recliner in the next room. Nora Callahan was 62 years old. She looked 75, a kidney one year. Then the other. Then her appetite. Then her laugh. Then the way she used to hum when she folded laundry. Now Nora sat in the chair and watched the muted television and waited for her daughter to bring her food. She did not want to eat. Bridie. The voice was a reed. Bridie. Did you eat? Yeah, Ma. I ate. She had not eaten. She had not eaten since lunch yesterday. But she put the toast on a chipped plate. She walked across the small living room. She crouched down. Her knees popped. They had been popping since she was 22. She pressed the plate into her mother's papery hands. You first, Ma. You first. I ate already. Bridie, Ma, their eyes met. Nora always knew when her daughter was lying. Mothers were not stupid. But Nora was too tired to fight today, so she took a small bite. She chewed slow. She swallowed slower. The phone rang. Bridget grabbed it on the second ring. Hello, Miss Callahan. This is Northwestern Memorial Billing Department. We're calling about your mother's outstanding balance of $47,612. Bridget turned away from her mother. She walked into the kitchen. She pressed the phone hard against her ear. I sent a payment last week. Yes. $200. Yes, Miss Callahan. The minimum monthly payment to keep your mother eligible for the kidney transplant list is $800 per month. The current outstanding balance sends, I know, and if the balance is not brought current within. I know. She hung up. She stood in the kitchen. She stared at the refrigerator. There was a magnet on it, a souvenir from Wisconsin Dells. A red plastic cow with the words, "Have a moveless day," printed on its side. Her father had bought it for her when she was 8 years old. Declan Callahan had been dead for 10 years. The magnet was still there. She closed her eyes. She would not cry, because crying did not pay bills. Crying did not buy kidneys. Crying did not bring her father back from a parking lot on Cermak Road at 6 in the morning with a hole in his temple and a story the police had decided to believe. So she did what she always did. She went to work. The walk to Marchetti's Trattoria took 40 minutes. 2 bus transfers. The number 35 to Halsted, the number 8 to Taylor. Then 6 blocks on foot, in shoes that had been resoled twice. It was October. Chicago was making promises about winter. The wind off Lake Michigan had teeth in it. Bridget pulled her coat tighter. The coat was too small. It had been too small for 3 years. But coats cost money, and money was for kidneys. She kept her head down. A group of college kids passed her on the sidewalk. One of them snorted. said something to his friends. They laughed. She did not turn around. She had learned a long time ago that turning around only made it worse. Better to keep walking. Better to keep your eyes on the pavement. Better to disappear, because the truth was this. People did not see Bridget Callahan. Not really. They looked at her body and they decided she was already a punchline. They decided she was already finished. They decided she was already nothing. And then they said whatever they wanted in front of her, which was exactly what Bridget was counting on, because she was not nothing. Because she had been listening for 3 years. Because she knew things. She knew things that could get her killed. Marchetti's trattoria sat on West Taylor Street, Little Italy, the kind of neighborhood that had been Italian for 100 years, and would be Italian for 100 more. The kind of neighborhood where the cops knew which doors not to knock on. The restaurant looked unassuming from the outside. Red awning, gold lettering, a chalkboard out front advertising the daily special. Veal Milanese, $48. But the people who ate there did not come for the veal. They came for the back room. Brigid pushed through the kitchen entrance at 5:15 sharp. She was always early. Frank Bellini, the kitchen manager, was already screaming at the line cook. A pot was burning. Steam was everywhere. Callahan, Frank's voice, sharp, wet. He always sounded like he had something stuck in his throat. "You're on table 9 tonight." She froze for a second. But only a second. Table 9. Yeah. "The boss is coming in." Wants the usual. "Don't fuck it up." She nodded. She tied her apron. She did not say a word, because table 9 was Raphael Marchetti's table, and Raphael Marchetti was the reason she had taken this job in the first place. 3 years ago, she had walked into Marchetti's with a paper application. She had lied on that application. She had written her name as Bridget Sullivan, not Callahan, because she did not want anyone in this building to remember her father. 3 years ago, she had started a notebook. The notebook lived under the floorboard beneath her bed at home. 3 loose planks. Pry them up with a butter knife. Reach inside. Pull out a leather journal that fit in her apron pocket. This was her own notebook, but she had another one too. The other one. The original one. The one her father had been carrying the week he died. That one was in a safety deposit box at First Federal of Chicago, box 1147. The key was sewn into the lining of her old winter coat. The first notebook had been her father's gift. When Brigid was 12 years old, Declan Callahan had handed her a leather notebook and a pencil. He had said, "Bridie, a girl who pays his attention is a girl who cannot be lied to. Write down what you hear. Write down what you see. Write down what does not match. Most of what people tell you is wrong. The truth is in what they forget." She had written in that notebook every day since. She had filled 3 by the time she was 19. This one was the 4th, and this 4th notebook was about Raphael Marchetti Nymems. Dates, conversations, license plates, bank account numbers she had memorized from the corners of business cards. Things she had heard while pouring water, while clearing plates, while being invisible. She knew that Councilman Pritchard was sleeping with the wife of a federal judge. She knew that the Marchetti family was laundering money through laundromats in Cicero. She knew that Frank Bellini was skimming 20% off the truffle oil and the saffron and the imported olive oil. She knew 100 things, but the one thing she did not know, the one thing she had been chasing for 3 years, was who killed her father. Declan Callahan had been the accountant for the Marchetti family for 15 years. He had been good, the best, quiet, honest in the way that mattered to mob accountants, which meant he kept his mouth shut and his numbers clean. And then one morning, 10 years ago, he had not come home. The police had found his body in his car, a 1998 Buick Regal, parked behind a strip mall on Cermak Road, a single gunshot wound to the temple. His own pistol in his hand, suicide. That was what they wrote on the report. Bridget had been 18 years old. She had stood in the morgue. She had looked at her father, and she had known. She had known in the way that daughters know things about their fathers. Declan Callahan had not killed themselves, but she had been 18, and she had been heavy. And she had been a girl. And nobody had listened, so she had waited. She had finished her 2 years at community college. She had taken care of her mother. She had raised her little brother, Cillian. She had waited until she was strong enough. And then, 3 years ago, she had walked into Marchetti's trattoria, and she had started listening. Tonight she would listen again. She picked up the tray. She steadied her hands. She walked out onto the floor. The dinner crowd was thick. Wednesday night. Old money. The booths were full of men in suits that cost more than her car. She passed table 4. A woman named Sophia Marino held court with 2 other Mafia wives. Sophia was 61 years old, cousin of Raphael Marchetti on his mother's side. Sharp eyes, sharper tongue. Sophia did not look up. Good, the boss's table was empty. She set it with practiced hands. 2 glasses of water, the wine list, the good silverware. The cloth napkins folded into perfect triangles. Then the front door opened. She did not look up. She had learned a long time ago not to look up when he came in, but she felt him anyway. Because everyone in the restaurant felt him, the room got quieter. Not silent, just quieter. The way a forest gets quiet when a predator walks through it. Raphael Marchetti, 6'1", 38 years old. Heir to an empire of blood and brick and bourbon. Black hair combed back. A jaw that could cut glass. A suit that fit him the way suits fit men in old black and white movies. He sat down at table 9, back to the wall. Always. Brigid waited a full minute. Then she approached. "Good evening, Mr. Marchetti." He looked up. His eyes met hers. And something happened. It happened every time he looked at her, which she could not explain, which she did not want to explain, because Raphael Marchetti was the prime suspect on her list. Raphael Marchetti was the man she had spent 3 years trying to destroy, but when his eyes met hers, the floor under her feet got soft. Just a little. Brigid. He said her name like it was a word he had practiced. "The usual, sir, please." She turned to walk away. "Brigid." She stopped. "Yes, sir. How is your mother?" The question landed in her chest like a stone. She did not turn around, because if she turned around, he would see her face. And she did not trust her face right now. "She's fine, sir. Thank you for asking." Good, that was all he said. And then he picked up the wine list and pretended to read it. She walked back to the kitchen. She stood at the service window. She closed her eyes. She breathed, because here was the thing. Raphael Marchetti was the only person at this restaurant who had ever asked about her mother. Not Frank, not the other servers. Not the regulars who tipped her in pennies and called her sweetheart and stared at her chest while their wives were in the bathroom. Just Raphael Marchetti, the man who had probably ordered her father's death, the man who tipped 20%. Every time. Without fail, always. She told herself the same thing she told herself every shift. He is a monster. He is the monster who killed your father. He is the monster who has put 100 good men in the ground. Do not let him be a man. Do not let him be human. Do not let him be anything other than a monster. She picked up his whiskey. She carried it to table 9. She set it down. "Your whiskey, Mr. Marchetti." "Thank you, Brigid." And she went back to the floor. For 90 minutes the night was normal. Brigid worked tables 3, 4, 5, 6, and 9. She refilled water glasses. She delivered bread baskets. She cleared plates. She smiled at customers who did not smile back. She laughed politely at a joke a banker made about her ordering the diet menu. She let an old man pat her hand and call her honey while his wife glared at her like she had personally seduced him. She was invisible, and she was efficient. and she was watching everything. At 7:30, the door opened again. Carlo Falcone walked in. The restaurant went quiet again. But this was a different kind of quiet. The first quiet had been respect. This quiet was fear. Because Carlo Falcone did not eat at Marchetti's. Ever. Carlo Falcone ran the South Side. Carlo Falcone and Raphael Marchetti had been at war for 2 years over the shipping docks on Lake Calumet. Carlo Falcone had killed at least 4 of Marchetti's men. Marchetti had killed at least 6 of his. So when Carlo Falcone walked into Marchetti's trattoria on a Wednesday night with 3 bodyguards behind him, every single person in the dining room understood what they were watching. They were watching either the start of a war or the end of one. Carlo Falcone walked straight to table 9. He sat down across from Raphael Marchetti. His bodyguard stood behind him. Marchetti's bodyguard stood behind Marchetti. 6 men, all armed, all watching each other. Frank Bellini came out of the kitchen. His face was white. Callahan. He grabbed her arm. "What? You're serving them?" "Frank, don't argue." "Frank, I don't." "Bridget," he said her name like he was apologizing, which he had never done before, which scared her. "Just bring them their food. Don't talk, don't react. Just bring it and leave." She nodded. She picked up the tray. She walked out into the dining room. The tray held veal parmigiana for Marchetti, linguine vongole for Falcone, a bottle of Brunello di Montalcino, 2 crystal glasses. She approached the table the way she had been taught to approach a snake, slowly, without sudden movements, eyes down, body small, or as small as her body could ever be, gentlemen. She set down the plates. She set down the wine. She poured a small taste for Marchetti. He nodded without looking at it. She poured both glasses. Carlo Falcone laughed. "Christ, Marchetti. You let them serve you food while a heifer like this stands over you. You ain't worried she's gonna fall on you." Brigid did not move. She had heard worse. She had heard worse from richer men. She had heard worse from poorer men. She had heard worse from men who had been dead for 10 years. She kept pouring. Hey, Shamu. I'm talking to you." She did not look up. Carlo Falcone's hand moved. She saw it. It was very small. It was very fast. It was the kind of movement that would have been invisible to anyone who was not standing directly over the table. His thumb, his left thumb, flicked the cap off a tiny glass vial that had been hidden in his palm, tipped it, a whisper of white powder, into Marchetti's whiskey glass. The one that was still half full from earlier. The one Marchetti had been nursing for an hour. Carlo's hand pulled back. The whole thing took less than 2 seconds. Marchetti was looking at his phone, which had buzzed at exactly that moment, which Brigid did not believe was a coincidence. She kept pouring. She did not let her hand shake. She did not let her face move. She did not let her breathing change. Because inside her head, a storm. He just poisoned him. Carlo Falcone just poisoned Raphael Marchetti right in front of you. White powder, probably cyanide, probably enough to drop a horse. He's going to drink it. He's going to drink it, and he's going to die. Right here, at this table. And then there will be a war. And the war will start in this room, with these men, with these guns, with you standing here, holding a bottle of Brunello. And you will die too. Stop thinking. Think, if she screamed, Carlo's men would shoot. 6 guns in a room with 40 civilians. People would die. The cooks, the buses, the old couple at table 2, who had been celebrating their 50th anniversary. If she said nothing, Raphael Marchetti would drink the whiskey, and he would die, right here. And then Carlo's men would shoot anyway, because witnesses. She had 3 seconds. She had 2. She had 1. Brigid Callahan made a decision. She shifted her weight. She let her left hip slam against the corner of the table. The impact rattled the wood. The wine bottle slipped. She gasped, loud, theatrical. The bottle tipped. She reached for it, missed, caught the edge of Carlo Falcone's wine glass with her elbow. The glass shattered. Red wine erupted across the table, across Carlo Falcone's lap. The Brunello soaked into his $3,000 charcoal Brioni trousers in less than a second. "Oh my God! Oh my God, sir! I'm so sorry." Carlo Falcone exploded out of his chair. "You fucking cow!" His voice was a roar. His bodyguards moved, hands toward jackets. Marchetti's bodyguards moved, hands toward their own jackets. Marchetti raised one hand, just one hand. Two fingers extended, pointed at the floor. His men stopped moving. Carlo's men hesitated. "Sit down, Falcone." Marchetti's voice was very, very quiet. Carlo did not sit down. He stood there, wine dripping down his thighs. His face was the color of a beet. Brigid did not waste her window. She moved. Faster than she should have been able to move. She grabbed the broken glass shards. She grabbed Carlo's empty wine glass. She grabbed the whiskey tumbler, Raphael Marchetti's whiskey tumbler, the poisoned one. She swept all of it onto her tray. "Let me clean this up. Let me get you a fresh drink, sir. Let me get you a towel." "Oh, God, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." She backed away from the table. She did not run. She walked. She walked at the exact speed of a woman who was embarrassed and clumsy and apologetic. She pushed through the kitchen door. She did not stop in the kitchen. She walked straight to the dishwashing station. She turned the tap on. Hot water, full blast. She tilted the whiskey tumbler. The amber liquid swirled, disappeared down the drain. She watched it go. She rinsed the glass 3 times. Her hands were shaking now. Hahad, a voice behind her. "Callahan." She nearly dropped the tray. She turned. Frank Bellini was standing in the doorway. He was looking at her. He was looking at the empty glass in her hand. He was looking at the drain. For a long moment he did not say anything. Then he said, "Was that what I think it was?" She did not answer. He stepped closer. He took the glass out of her hand. Quick. Sharp. Then he set it down on the counter. "Brigid. Frank, Brigid. What did you just do?" "I dropped a tray, Frank, Brigid. I dropped a tray." He stared at her. She stared back. Frank Bellini had worked at Marchetti's for 22 years. He had seen a lot of things. He had cleaned up after a lot of things. He had pretended not to see a lot of things. He knew what cyanide smelled like. He swallowed. "Get out there. Get him a fresh drink. Act normal, Frank, Brigid. Get out there now." She nodded. She poured a fresh whiskey. She put it on a clean tray. She walked back into the dining room. The scene had changed. Carlo Falcone had gone to the bathroom to deal with his trousers. 2 of his men had followed him. 1 was still at the table. Marchetti's 3 men were still standing. Brigid approached table 9. She set the fresh whiskey down in front of Raphael Marchetti. His hand shot out fast. Faster than she had ever seen a hand move. His fingers closed around her wrist. Not painfully, but absolutely. She froze. "Sit." His voice was almost a whisper. "Sir, I sit." He pulled her wrist toward the empty chair across from him. She sat. Her knees were trembling. Her uniform was sticking to her back with sweat. The dining room was watching. Marchetti did not let go of her wrist. He held it on the table between them. His thumb pressed lightly against the inside of her arm, where the pulse was. He could feel her pulse. She knew he could feel her pulse. "You did not trip, sir." "You did not trip, Brigid." His eyes locked onto hers. "I watched you. I watched your eyes before you hit the table. You were looking at my glass. You were looking at Falcone's hand. And then you put your hip into the corner of the table and you knocked over his wine. And you took my whiskey away from me. She did not breathe. You saved my life. She did not breathe. Why? The word hung between them. Why? She did not know what to say, because the answer was too big. The answer had 3 years of notebook in it. The answer had a dead father, and a dying mother, and a kid brother who deserved to make it to college. The answer had 10 years of grief in it. The answer was, "I think you killed my father, and I have been trying to destroy you for 3 years, but I cannot watch a man die at my table. She could not say that. So she said, because innocent people would have died. Sir, he blinked. It was not the answer he was expecting. Innocent people. There's an old couple at table 2. They are celebrating their 50th anniversary. The busboy who works Tuesdays and Wednesdays. His wife had a baby 6 weeks ago. The piano player, the hostess, 3 of the cooks, the dishwasher. If Carl Falcone's men had opened fire when you collapsed, they would have died, too. She paused, so I handled it quietly. Raphael Marchetti looked at her. He looked at her the way no man had ever looked at her in her life. He was not looking at her body. He was not looking at her uniform. He was looking at her mind. He was looking at her like she was the most interesting thing he had ever seen. Bridget Callahan. She froze, because he had said her last name, because she had given the restaurant the name Sullivan 3 years ago. He knew. He had always known, sir. Don't move. The bathroom door swung open. Carlo Falcone marched back out. Marchetti released her wrist. Stand against the wall. Do not leave this room. She stood up. She backed away. She stood against the wall by the kitchen door. Carlo Falcone reached the table. Marchetti, we're done here. You'll have my answer about the docks tomorrow. Marchetti smiled. It was not a friendly smile. Sit down, Carlo. Have a drink first. To apologize for my waitress's clumsy mistake, Carlo paused. I don't drink cheap whiskey. It is not cheap. Marchetti pushed the fresh whiskey tumbler across the table. Carlo's eyes narrowed. Carlo was no fool. Carlo knew something was off. But Carlo Falcone was a man with a poisoned ego, and Marchetti had just publicly offered him a drink in front of his men. Refusing it would look like fear, so Carlo Falcone smiled. He picked up the whiskey. He raised it. To your funeral, Marchetti, he drank. He drank it all. In one long swallow, Bridget stopped breathing because the whiskey was clean. She had poured it herself. But Carlo Falcone's eyes were widening. But Carlo Falcone's hands were starting to claw at his own throat. But Carlo Falcone was making a noise. A wet, horrified gurgle. But Carlo Falcone was falling onto the imported Carrara marble floor. The screams came first, then the running, then the gunfire. 3 shots into the ceiling. Marchetti's men. To freeze the room, lock the doors. Nobody leaves. Marchetti's voice cut through the chaos like a blade through butter. 40 people froze. Carlo Falcone twitched. Once. Twice. Then he stopped twitching. He was dead. Bridget was still pressed against the wall. She could not feel her legs. She could not feel her hands. She could only feel the cold sweat running down between her shoulder blades. Raphael Marchetti stood up. Slowly. He stepped over Carlo Falcone's body. He walked toward Bridget. He did not stop walking until he was inches from her face. He reached into his jacket pocket. He pulled out something tiny. Glass scent. A vial. The same vial Carlo Falcone had used. He dropped this under the table. When you slammed your hip into it. I picked it up while everyone was watching you apologize. Bridget stared at the vial, then at Marchetti. Then at Carlo Falcone's body. She understood. She understood completely. While she had been in the kitchen pouring out the poisoned whiskey, Raphael Marchetti had been at the table. With the vial. With the dregs of poison still inside. He had tipped that vial into the empty wine glass, the clean wine glass, which he had then refilled with whiskey, which he had then offered to Carlo Falcone, which Carlo Falcone had drunk. Bridget had not poisoned Carlo Falcone, but she had pulled the empty whiskey tumbler away. She had given Marchetti the empty vessel he needed. She had killed Carlo Falcone, or at least, she had helped. You used me, she whispered his head. I did not use you, Bridget. I responded to you. You knew I would switch the drinks. I hoped you would. You knew. I hoped. He stepped closer. Bridget, for 1 year, I have been watching you. I have known your real last name for 9 months. I have known about your mother's diagnosis for 6. I have known about your brother's high school for 4. The floor tilted. I did not plan tonight. I did not know Carlo would bring poison. But when I saw your hip move toward the table, I knew exactly what you were doing. And in the half-second between you knocking over the wine and you reaching for the whiskey glass, I made a decision. He paused. I decided that if a woman like you was willing to throw herself into a table to save a man like me, then a woman like you was worth keeping. The sirens were starting in the distance. Faint. Maybe 2 minutes out. He reached up. His knuckles brushed a strand of red hair away from her cheek. The touch was so gentle she almost cried. Bridget Callahan, I am going to ask you one question, and your answer will decide what happens to you in the next 60 seconds. Do you understand? She nodded. He leaned closer. His mouth was inches from her ear. A powerful man stands in front of you. A man who kills. A man who corrupts. A man whose hands have done things you cannot imagine. And tonight you had the chance to let that man die, to let his enemy poison him, to wash the city clean of him. And instead, you saved him. So tell me, Bridget, why did you save the monster the whole room was watching? The dead body of Carlo Falcone was watching, and Bridget Callahan thought of her father. She thought of Declan Callahan in his Buick Regal, with a hole in his temple. She thought of every cop who had told her to go home. She thought of every well-dressed banker who had pretended not to see her. She thought of the woman at the hospital billing department who had called her Miss Callahan in that bored voice. She thought of the college kids on the sidewalk this morning. She thought of how Raphael Marchetti tipped 20%. She thought of how he said thank you. She thought of how he had asked about her mother. She lifted her chin. She looked Raphael Marchetti in the eye, because the saints in this city walk past me on the sidewalk and laugh at my coat, because the good men in this restaurant tip me 8% and stare down my shirt while their wives are in the bathroom, because the doctors who are letting my mother die call me Miss Callahan in a voice that has already given up on her. So no, I will not save them. I will not save any of them. She paused. But a monster who looks me in the eye. A monster who calls me by my name. A monster who tips 20% and says thank you. A monster who asks about my mother. That monster I will save. Because in my world, Mr. Marchetti, loyalty does not go to the saint. Loyalty goes to the one who treats me like a human being. She was shaking, but her voice was steady. Raphael Marchetti stared at her for a long time. Then he smiled. A slow smile, a dark smile. A smile that promised her 10,000 things she did not understand yet. He turned to his bodyguards. Get the car. Bridget is leaving with me. The Escalade drove north on Lake Shore Drive. The lake was black. The sky was blacker. The Chicago skyline glittered to her left like a fistful of broken glass. Rafe Marchetti did not speak for 10 minutes. Then, your father. She did not turn her head. What about him? You think I killed him? She turned her head. He was looking out the opposite window. His profile was carved from stone. Did you? No. That is what a man who killed my father would say. Yes. It is. He turned to look at her. But I did not kill him, Mr. Marchetti. Rafe. Rafe. She tasted his name. It did not taste like the name of a killer. But she had been wrong before, Rafe. My father was your family's accountant for 15 years. He died of a gunshot wound that the police called a suicide. 3 days before he died, he told my mother that he had found something in the books. 3 days before he died, he told me that he loved me, and that if anything happened to him, I was to take care of my brother. She breathed. 3 days, and then he was dead. Rafe Marchetti closed his eyes. He opened them. I know, you know, I know all of that. I know what your father said to your mother. I know what your father said to you. I know that he found something in the books. I know that he died 3 days later. I know that the police lied. I know who paid them to lie. She stared at him. How? Because, Bridget, I have been looking for the man who killed your father for 10 years. The Escalade kept driving. She knew only one thing. She had her notebook in the pocket of her cheap polyester uniform, and tomorrow morning she would open it, and she would add a new name to the list. Rafe Marchetti, possible ally, or possible end of her. She did not know which. The Escalade turned off Lakeshore Drive. North, toward the suburbs. Toward Lake Forest. Brigid Callahan closed her eyes. She thought of her father. She made him a promise. I am going to finish what you started, Da. I am going to finish it. I do not care what it costs me. I am going to finish it. The car drove on into the dark. The Marchetti estate sat behind a wall of black iron, 14 feet tall, spikes at the top. The kind of wall that did not pretend to be decorative. The Escalade rolled through the gate at 1:20 in the morning. The driveway was a quarter-mile long, white gravel, lined with cypress trees that had been imported from Tuscany when Rafe's grandfather was still alive. The house at the end of the driveway was not a house. It was a fortress dressed up as a house. Limestone, 3 stories, 28 rooms. A wine cellar that could survive a nuclear strike. Brigid stepped out of the Escalade. She was still in her cheap polyester uniform. She was still wearing rubber-soled shoes she had bought at a discount store. Rafe Marchetti got out behind her. Brigid, yes, tomorrow we talk. Tonight you sleep, she nodded. A woman appeared at the front door, 60-something, grey hair in a bun, wearing a plain black dress. Her name was Agnes. She had worked for the Marchetti family for 31 years, Agnes. This is Brigid. Put her in the East Suite. Yes, sir. He walked into the house. He did not look back. Agnes turned to Brigid. Her face was unreadable, but her voice was kind. This way, Miss Callahan. Brigid followed her up a curved marble staircase, down a hallway, past oil paintings of dead Italians who had probably done terrible things. Through a set of double doors, the East Suite was bigger than her apartment, a bed the size of a parking space, a fireplace, a bathtub she could have drowned in, a walk-in closet that was completely empty. Agnes pointed to a robe folded on the bed. Mr. Marchetti said, "The clothes will come tomorrow." She left. Brigid stood alone in the middle of the East Suite. She looked at her reflection in the floor-to-ceiling window, a waitress in polyester. Standing in the East Suite of a Mafia palace, she walked into the bathroom. She locked the door. She sat on the edge of the bathtub, and then she cried, for exactly 4 minutes, because that was all the time she could afford. She pulled the notebook out of the inside pocket of her uniform. She opened it to a fresh page. She wrote Day 1 inside the house. Rafe Marchetti says he did not kill Da. Rafe Marchetti says he has been hunting Da's killer for 10 years. He could be lying. He could be telling the truth. Watch him. Watch. Everyone. Trust nothing. She closed the notebook. She put it under the mattress. She slept for 4 hours. She dreamed of her father. The next morning, a tailor arrived from Manhattan. Her name was Inez Halloran, 60 years old, 6 feet tall, silver hair. The kind of woman who looked at other women's bodies, the way a sculptor looks at a block of marble. Inez did not flinch when she saw Brigid in the morning light. "Take off the robe, please." "Excuse me." The robe. "Take it off." Brigid took off the robe. She stood in her underwear. Stretch marks on her belly, rolls on her back, thighs that rubbed together when she walked. Inez circled her once. Magnificent. Brigid blinked. "Excuse me," I said, "magnificent. Do not make me repeat myself, child. You are magnificent. Now stand still." Brigid stood still. Inez measured her every inch. The tape was cold. The pencil scratched on paper. Rafe Marchetti appeared in the doorway. He was wearing a black turtleneck, black trousers. He held a coffee cup. He did not pretend to look away. "Inez, Raphael, what colors? What do you want her to look like?" He looked at Brigid for a long time. "Untouchable," Inez nodded. Emerald, ruby, gold, black, no pinstripes, no vertical stripes, no camouflage. I will not hide her. Good. And shoes. Real shoes. The kind that do not apologize. Good. He walked away. Inez kept measuring. Brigid kept standing. Somewhere inside her chest, a small thing started to hurt. Because no one had ever called her magnificent before. Because no one had ever told a tailor to make her clothes that did not apologize. Because she was here to destroy this man. She kept reminding herself. She was here to destroy this man. The lessons began on the third day. The first lesson was the gun. His name was Tomas. He was Rafe's personal security chief, 55 years old, Cuban. He had hands that had been broken so many times the knuckles no longer lined up. He met her in the basement. There was a shooting range down there. Mr. Marchetti says, "You need to learn to shoot." "I do not need to learn to shoot. Mr. Marchetti says you need to learn." "Tomas, Miss Callahan, I have been shooting since I was 9 years old." He blinked. "Excuse me. My father was a Marine before he was an accountant. He taught me to shoot a .22 at the age of 9, a 9mm at 12, a shotgun at 14. I am rusty, but I am not new." Thomas stared at her. Then he smiled. It was a small smile, but it was a real one. "Show me." She showed him. She put 6 rounds in the center of the target at 25 feet. She switched magazines without looking. She put 6 more rounds in the same hole. Thomas whistled. "Miss Callahan, yes. Mr. Marchetti is going to be very interested in this. Then do not tell him, miss. Do not tell him, Thomas." "Not yet." He looked at her for a long time. Then he nodded. "As you wish, miss." She put the gun down. She knew exactly why she had asked him to keep the secret. Because Rafe Marchetti thought she was a clever waitress. Because Rafe Marchetti thought she was an asset. Because Rafe Marchetti did not know that she was a soldier's daughter who had been planning his destruction for 3 years. And the longer he underestimated her, the better. The third lesson came at dinner. Sunday. The first Sunday she had been in the house. Rafe sat at the head of the table. 12 people at the table. Brigid at his right hand. She had never sat at anyone's right hand before. She watched everyone. She watched the way they ate. She watched who refilled their own wine glass and who waited for it to be refilled. She watched who interrupted Rafe and who did not. She watched whose laughter was real and whose was performed. There were 3 people at the table she was supposed to remember. Sophia Marino. 61. Rafe's first cousin, the same Sophia who had once thrown Chianti at her. Tonight Sophia did not throw anything. Tonight Sophia kept her eyes on Brigid the entire dinner. The second was Father Salvatore Donatelli, 73, the family priest. He had baptized Rafe. He had buried Rafe's father. He drank grappa with both hands. The third was Vito Albano. Vito was the underboss. Vito was 52 years old. He had known Rafe since Rafe was 9. He had been Rafe's father's right hand before he was Rafe's. He wore a Rolex President. He smelled like cologne that had been chosen by an ex-wife. Vito hated Brigid on sight. She could feel it across the table. He smiled at her. He raised his glass to her. He told a joke about her at one point, about how the chef would need to buy more veal because the new lady at the table had an appetite. Everyone laughed. Rafe did not laugh. Rafe set down his fork. Slowly the laughter died. Vito, boss. You will apologize to Brigid. It was a joke, boss. It was not a joke. You will apologize to Brigid. The room was silent. My apologies, Miss Callahan. Accepted, Mr. Albano. She smiled at him, a polite smile. A smile that said, I have noticed you. He saw it, he saw it. He saw her seeing him see it. And in that moment, Brigid Callahan understood that her real enemy in this house was not Rafe Marchetti. It was the man across the table. She did not write it in the notebook that night. She did not have to. She would remember Vito Albano's face for the rest of her life. 2 weeks passed, then 3, then 4. The house got smaller. Or she got bigger. She was not sure which. She learned the layout, the cameras, the blind spots. She learned that the security system rebooted every Sunday at 3 in the morning for exactly 90 seconds. She learned that the guard at the south gate fell asleep between 4 and 5 a.m. She wrote it all down, and she also slowly started to learn Rafe Marchetti. He woke up at 5 every morning. He went for a run, 5 miles. In all weather, he came back. He showered. He drank 1 cup of coffee with 3 sugars. He read 3 newspapers. He met with men in his study every morning between 8 and 10. He kissed the hand of his 86-year-old great-aunt who lived in the West Wing. He played chess with the priest on Wednesdays. He cooked dinner himself on Fridays. He cooked. The first Friday she watched him do it, she stood in the doorway of the kitchen like a stunned animal. "You cook." He did not look up. "I cook you." Raphael Marchetti, cook my grandmother taught me. She said a man who cannot feed himself cannot lead other men. "Come here. Stir this." He handed her a wooden spoon. She stirred. He was making carbonara. From scratch, guanciale, pecorino, eggs from a farm in Wisconsin. Brigid, yes. Stir slower. You are not beating it. You are folding it. I have been making spaghetti for 20 years. You have been making spaghetti wrong for 20 years. She laughed. She actually laughed. It came out of her before she could stop it. He smiled. She stopped laughing because she remembered. She remembered who he was and who she was and what she was here for. She stirred slower. She did not laugh again that night, but that night she went to bed and she lay in the dark and she thought, he could not have killed Da. A man who cooks carbonara for his waitress could not have killed D'And. Then immediately she thought, stop it. Stop it. Stop thinking like that. Men who cook carbonara have killed plenty of fathers. Get your head right. She got her head right. She got out of bed. She walked down the hall. She picked the lock on Rafe Marchetti's study. It took her 4 minutes. The study was lined with books, most of them in Italian. The desk was teak. The chair was leather. There was a humidor on the credenza. There was a painting of his grandfather over the fireplace. She started with the desk drawers. Nothing. She started with the credenza. Nothing. She found a small key taped to the underside of the desk lamp. The key opened a drawer she had not noticed. Inside the drawer was a file. A thick file. Manila. No label. She opened it. The first page made her stop breathing. It was a photograph of her father, Declan Callahan, Buick Regal, parking lot at 6 in the morning. His head against the steering wheel. His eyes open. She had never seen this photograph. The police had never shown this photograph to her. She turned the page. The next page was a coroner's report. The real one. Not the one her mother had received. This one said the entry wound on Declan Callahan was inconsistent with a self-inflicted gunshot. This one said the angle was wrong. This one said the powder residue on the hand did not match the pattern made when a man pulls the trigger himself. This one said murder. Brigid sat down on the floor of the study. She turned the next page, notes. In Rafe Marchetti's handwriting, Declan Callahan was murdered. Murder staged as suicide. Coroner paid $40,000 to revise the report. Suspect list. Below the words suspect list, there were 6 names. 5 of them had been crossed out. The 6th name was not crossed out. The 6th name was Vito Albano. Brigid stared at the name. The page swam. Her ears rang. Because Vito Albano was the man who had insulted her at the dinner table. Because Vito Albano was Rafe Marchetti's underboss. Because Vito Albano had access to the books her father had been keeping. A noise behind her. She turned. Rafe Marchetti was standing in the doorway of the study. He was wearing pajama pants. No shirt. His chest was a map of scars she did not have time to read. She did not stand up. She held up the file. You knew. I knew. For 10 years. For 10 years. Why didn't you tell me? Because I did not have proof. You have a name, I have a name. I do not have proof. The difference matters. She looked at the name. She looked at him. Vito Albano killed my father. I believe Vito Albano killed your father. I have believed it for 9 years. I have not been able to prove it. The men I have asked have ended up dead. The records I have requested have ended up burned. Whoever Vito works with is more powerful than Vito. Whoever Vito works with has resources that reach into places I cannot reach. He stepped into the room. He sat down on the floor across from her. I did not know who you were when you started at the restaurant. I figured it out at month 8. I almost confronted you then. I almost told you everything. But I waited. Why? Because I needed to see what you were doing. And what was I doing? He smiled. It was the saddest smile she had ever seen on a human face. You were doing exactly what I have been doing. You were hunting him, and you were going to fail. Bridget, you are brilliant. You are the most observant person I have ever met, but you are going to fail. Because the man who killed your father has the United States government in his pocket. She stopped breathing. What? Vito Albano works for someone else, Bridget. Vito Albano is a knife. He is not the hand that holds the knife. Who? I do not know. Not yet. But I know that this person is the reason every lead has died. I know that this person is the reason the FBI has never opened a real investigation into the Marchetti family, even though they have had every excuse to. I know that this person is the reason that 3 of my best men in the last decade have ended up dead in suspicious car accidents within 48 hours of getting close to the truth. He paused. And now you are here, Bridget, and whoever this person is, they will figure out you are here, and they will come for you the way they came for your father. He looked at her. That is why I brought you to this house. Not because I wanted eyes and ears. I have eyes and ears. I brought you here because I could not protect you if you were out there. She put the file down. She wiped her face. She had not noticed she was crying. Why didn't you just tell me? Would you have believed me? She thought about it. No, I would have thought you were lying to control me. Yes, I would have shot you, he laughed. A short, tired laugh, I know. They sat on the floor of his study. The file was between them. Her dead father's photograph was face up on the rug. She reached across the file. She took his hand. She had never touched a man's hand on purpose in 5 years. His hand was warm. He did not say anything. She did not say anything. They sat like that for a long time. A federal agent appeared in Brigid's life 2 days later. She was sitting in a coffee shop in Lincoln Park. She had taken the morning to get out of the house. Tomas had driven her. He was waiting in the car. Bridget was in a sweater Inez Halloran had made for her. Forest green. Cashmere. A man sat down across from her. She did not look up. Miss Callahan. She looked up. He was in his late 40s, Hispanic, dark eyes, a bad haircut. Government suit. My name is Special Agent Mateo Reyes, Federal Bureau of Investigation, Chicago Field Office. Organized Crime Task Force. He set a badge on the table. She did not pick it up. What do you want? I want to talk to you about Raphael Marchetti. No, Miss Callahan. I am going to talk to you about Raphael Marchetti. The only question is whether you talk back. He set a photograph on the table. She looked at it. It was a photograph of her brother. Cillian, standing outside his high school yesterday, wearing his backpack, talking to a girl from his algebra class. Her stomach turned to ice. You stay away from him, of course, Reyes. I will kill you, Miss Callahan. I do not want to bother your brother. Your brother is a good kid. Your brother has a bright future. Northwestern, maybe even Harvard, the kind of future that does not happen for the children of dead accountants, the kind of future that costs money. Money, I understand, is in short supply for the Callahan family. Money the Marchetti family is now providing. Which is interesting. Get to the point. The point is your mother. She blinked. My mother is dying. Your mother is on a kidney transplant list. The average wait is 6 years. Your mother does not have 6 years, 6 months. The doctors said 6 months. Yes, 6 months. Unless someone with influence calls Northwestern Memorial and asks that your mother's name be moved up the list. He paused. I can make that phone call. Miss Callahan. She stared at him. In exchange for what? In exchange for everything you know about Raphael Marchetti. In exchange for everything you see and hear inside that house. In exchange for your cooperation in helping the federal government dismantle the Marchetti crime family. She did not speak. She looked at the photograph of her brother. She looked at Special Agent Mateo Reyes. She looked at the coffee on the table that was getting cold, and in that moment, Bridget Callahan understood 3 things. 1. Special Agent Mateo Reyes was lying. 2. Special Agent Mateo Reyes was not just here for the Marchetti family. 3. She was going to have to play him. She picked up the photograph of her brother. She tore it in half. She slid it back across the table. I'll do it, he smiled. Wise choice. On one condition. You call the hospital today, not tomorrow. Today. By the time I get home, I want to know my mother has moved up the list. If I do not have proof by tonight, the deal is off. He nodded. Done. He stood up. He walked away. She sat in the coffee shop for 10 more minutes. She did not drink her coffee. She did not blink. Then she got into the Escalade. Thomas looked at her in the rearview mirror. Are you all right, miss? No, Thomas. Take me home. That night, Bridget Callahan sat on the edge of Rafe Marchetti's bed, and she told him everything about the FBI, about the photograph of Cillian, about the kidney transplant list, about the deal. He listened. He did not interrupt. When she was finished, he stood up. He walked to the window. Reyes is dirty, I know. You know. I knew the moment he sat down. The man's shoes were $600 Italians. His watch was a Patek Philippe with a strap older than he was. Federal agents do not dress like that. Not without help. Rafe turned. He looked at her in a way that made her stomach feel strange. Bridget Callahan, yes. How are you real? I do not know. He laughed. She laughed. They both stopped laughing. He sat back down on the bed. Next to her, not touching her. What do you want to do? I want to feed Reyes lies. I want to use him to find out who he works for. I want my mother on that list. I want Cillian safe. I want Vito Albano dead. And I want the man behind Vito Albano in a federal prison for the rest of his life. That is a lot of wants. Yes, some of them might cost you your life. Yes. He reached over. He took her hand. The next morning, Bridget made her own phone call, not to Reyes, to the FBI and Internal Affairs hotline, the Chicago office. A woman answered. Bridget spoke for 9 minutes. She told the woman she had reason to believe that a current FBI agent named Mateo Reyes had attempted to coerce her into espionage in exchange for medical favors. She told the woman she had Reyes's contact information. She told the woman she would feed Reyes whatever Internal Affairs wanted her to feed him. She told the woman she did not want immunity. She wanted Reyes in a cell. The woman on the other end said only one sentence at the end. Miss Callahan, we have been watching Special Agent Reyes for 2 years. Thank you for calling. Bridget hung up the phone. She walked back into the kitchen. Rafe was making espresso. He looked at her. You made the call. I made the call. Good, Rafe. Yes. Whatever happens next. It happens fast, I know. The attempt on her life came 3 weeks later. It was a Thursday afternoon. Bridget had gone shopping with Sophia Marino. Sophia had decided somewhere in the last month that Bridget was acceptable. Bridget did not know why. They had spent the morning at a boutique on Oak Street. Sophia had insisted Bridget needed accessories. A woman without earrings is a woman without armor. That was what Sophia said. So now Bridget had earrings. They were driving back to Lake Forest. Tomas was at the wheel. A second car of guards was behind them. Bridget was in the back seat next to Sophia. Sophia was talking about her grandson. A black SUV pulled out of a side street. It came fast. It rammed the back of the trailing security car. The security car spun. The SUV kept going. Thomas. I see it, miss. Sophia. Get down. What? Get down. Now the SUV pulled alongside them. The passenger window came down. A man leaned out. He was wearing a ski mask. He had an MP5. Bridget did not think. She moved. She tackled Sophia Marino across the seat. She put her own body between Sophia and the window. She reached under the front seat. She pulled out the Glock 19 that Tomas had been hiding there for 6 months. The MP5 opened up. The bulletproof glass held. For now. The round spiderwebbed it. Thomas slammed the Escalade into this SUV. Bridget rolled the window down 2 inches. She fired 5 rounds through the gap. She hit the shooter in the throat. He fell out the passenger window. He hit the pavement at 40 miles an hour. The SUV swerved. It hit a light pole. It stopped. Thomas kept driving. He drove for 6 minutes without speaking. Then he pulled into a parking garage. Then he stopped the car. Then he turned around and he looked at Bridget. Bridget was lying across Sophia Marino. Her sweater was soaked with sweat. She was still holding the Glock. Her hands were perfectly steady. Sophia Marino was staring at her. Sophia Marino's mouth was open. Bridget, yes, you shot him in the throat. Yes, through a 2-inch crack. In a moving car, yes. Brigid Callahan. Yes, Sophia. Who the hell are you? Brigid sat up. She handed the Glock to Tomas. She smoothed her sweater. I am the daughter of a Marine. Sophia Marino stared at her for a long time. Then Sophia Marino started to laugh. It was a sharp laugh. The laugh of a woman who had just realized she had been wrong about something for a very long time. Sophia leaned forward. Brigid. The day Raphael brought you home, I told him you were a stupid mistake. I told him you would get him killed. I told my husband 3 days ago that I was going to find a way to get rid of you. She paused. I take all of it back. Brigid did not smile. I do not need your apology, Sophia. You have it anyway. They drove home. Thomas searched the dead man's pockets that night. He found a phone, a pack of cigarettes, a wad of cash, and a single folded sheet of paper. The paper had 2 things on it: the address of the Marchetti estate and the 8-digit security code for the front gate. Only 3 people knew that code: Rafe Marchetti, Thomas, and Vito Albano. Brigitte stood in the study. Rafe stood across from her. The paper was on the desk between them. Rafe Marchetti's face had gone grey. Vito, he tried to kill you. He tried to kill me. He knows I am looking for my father's killer. He knows I am close. He knows the next thing I find will be his name. Hard. In the leather chair. I have known Vito for 40 years. I am sorry. I was the godfather to his son. I am sorry. I trusted him. I am sorry. He put his hand over his face. For 30 seconds, Raphael Marchetti, the most feared man in Chicago, sat in his study with his hand over his face and breathed. Then he stood up. We do not move yet. We do not tip him. Not until we know who he answers to. Agreed. Bridget. Yes. He is going to try again. I know. He will not stop. I know. He crossed the room. He took her face in both of his hands. He looked at her like a man looking at the last warm thing in a cold world. I cannot lose you, Bridget. You will not. You do not know that. I do know that. How? Because I am too angry to die. Because I have been angry for 10 years. Because anger keeps you alive when nothing else can. He pulled her toward him. He pressed his forehead against hers. He did not kiss her. He just breathed her in. She closed her eyes and let him hold her. She did not know when it had happened. She did not know how it had happened. She knew only that somewhere in the last 6 weeks, she had stopped wanting to destroy Raphael Marchetti. She had started wanting to save him. 2 weeks later, the invitation arrived. A thick cream envelope, embossed with gold. The Chicago Annual Children's Charity Gala, the Drake Hotel. Black tie. Saturday the 17th, Senator Hollister will speak. Bridget set down the invitation. She looked at Rafe. Across the table, Rafe. Yes. The gala. Yes. Senator Hollister. Yes, are we going? He set down the paper. He looked at her. He smiled. It was not a nice smile. It was a smile that promised many things. Yes, Bridget, we are going. That night Vito Albano made a phone call from his car. He spoke to a man whose name he did not say aloud. He said only one thing that mattered. The girl knows too much. We move at the gala. Marchetti and the girl, both. The same night, the voice on the other end said only one thing back. Make it look like an accident, and make sure she dies first. I want him to watch. Vito Albano hung up. He drove home. He poured himself a glass of whiskey. He toasted his own reflection in the window. He smiled. He did not know that in a fortress 30 miles north, Bridget Callahan was sitting on the edge of a bed she did not own, holding the hand of a man she was no longer pretending not to love, writing one last entry in a leather notebook her father had given her 16 years ago. Whatever happens at the gala, whatever happens after, it ends Saturday. Da. I am coming. She closed the notebook. She turned off the lamp. She lay down in the dark next to Rafat Marchetti. He pulled her against his chest. She listened to his heartbeat until she fell asleep. The Drake Hotel had been standing on East Walton Street since 1920. It had hosted presidents. It had hosted kings. It had hosted 3 murders that the public knew about, and 17 that it did not. Tonight it would host one more. Bridget Callahan did not know that yet. She knew only that she was standing in front of a mirror in a private suite on the 8th floor, and she did not recognize the woman looking back at her. The dress was ruby velvet deep red, the color of an arterial wound, long sleeves. A neckline that did not apologize for what it framed. Inez Halloran had built it like armor, 3 layers of structured silk underneath, a bodice with steel boning, a back that laced up like a Renaissance painting. It made her look like a queen. Diamonds at her throat, 3 rows, old stones, Marchetti family, worn by Rafe's grandmother, worn by his mother, now worn by her. Her hair was up. Sophia had done it. Sophia had arrived at 4 in the afternoon with a leather bag full of pins and combs and a bottle of grappa. They had drunk the grappa. Sophia had pinned the hair. The door behind her opened. Raphael Marchetti, black tuxedo, white shirt, black bow tie that he had tied himself. He looked at her. He did not say anything for a long time. Bridget, Rafe, I cannot do this if you wear that dress. I have to wear this dress. Bridget, Rafe, the dress is the dress. The night is the night. Stop, he laughed. Then he stopped laughing. He stepped behind her. He put one hand on her waist. Tomas has 6 men on us. Sophia's husband has 4. The car is armored. If anything happens, you go to the kitchen. The kitchen has a service elevator. The loading dock has a car. You get in the car, Rafe. What? I am not getting in the car without you. Bridget, I am not getting the car without you. He closed his eyes. He opened them. He kissed the back of her neck. Just one. Then I will be at the kitchen door beside you. Promise. I promise. He did not mean it. She knew he did not, but she pretended, because tonight pretending was the only way to walk out the door. The Drake's grand ballroom was lit by 28 crystal chandeliers, 800 guests, 600 of them rich. The other 200 wanted to be. There were senators. There were judges. There was the mayor of Chicago. There were television anchors. There were Sauzet princes. There were 3 men Bridget recognized from her father's funeral, men who had come to pay their respects, and then never spoken her family's name again. She walked in on Raphael Marchetti's arm. The room turned, not all at once, in waves, until 800 pairs of eyes were on the woman in the ruby velvet dress with diamonds at her throat. The whispers started. Bridget did not hear them. She had stopped hearing whispers a long time ago. She lifted her chin. She walked the length of the ballroom. She did not look at any of them. She did not need to. They could look at her instead. Sophia Marino caught her eye across the room and nodded once. Bridget nodded back. Rafe led her to their table. Number 11, center of the room. The dinner began. Course 1, tuna tartare. Course 2, lobster bisque. Course 3, salad with shaved truffle from Alba. Bridget did not eat. She could not eat. She picked up the fork 3 times and put it down 3 times. Rafe noticed. He just put his hand under the table on her knee. Then the man. Senator Reginald Hollister, 68 years old. Silver hair. A face that had been on television for 30 years. He stood up at the podium. He smiled the smile. Good evening, Chicago. The applause was warm. Professional. The applause of a room that paid $10,000 a plate to be here. Bridget felt her stomach turn. She did not know why. Yes, she did. She had heard the name before. Where had she heard the name? Her father's notebook. Not her own. Her father's, the original. The one in the safety deposit box at First Federal of Chicago. The one she had emptied 3 weeks ago. The one she had read in pieces late at night, when nobody was watching. The one that had her father's handwriting on every page. Senator Reginald Hollister, the name was in her father's hand. Written 6 times, in the back. Next to dollar figures, Bridget sat very still. The senator spoke for 15 minutes about the children of Chicago. Bridget did not hear a word. She watched the senator's hands. She watched his rings. She watched the way his eyes did not move when he smiled. She felt with the cold certainty of a woman who had spent 10 years learning to read men that she was looking at the man who had ordered her father's death. Rafe felt her stiffen. Bridget. Rafe. What is it? Later. The senator. Later, he did not press. He just slid his hand from her knee to her hand, and he held on. The speeches ended. The orchestra started. Then Rafe was pulled aside by a man Bridget did not recognize. Bridget was alone for the first time all night. She seized it. She walked across the ballroom. Slow. Casual. The way a tired woman walked at midnight. She slumped down at an empty chair near the rear of the room, near the curtains that led to the smoking balcony. She let her shoulders drop. She let her face go soft. She let herself become invisible again. It took 30 seconds. The waiters stopped seeing her. The guests stopped seeing her. She was invisible again. She had missed it. The smoking balcony curtain rustled. 2 men stepped through. Vito Albano, Senator Reginald Hollister. The curtain swung shut behind them, but did not close all the way. A 2-inch gap, cigar smoke drifting through. Bridget did not move. She breathed shallow. She listened. You said this would be handled 6 months, the senator's voice. It is being handled, Senator. Vito. The girl is alive, Vito. The girl is here. She is wearing my mother's diamonds. She is on his arm. The girl who has been writing in a notebook for 3 years is in my ballroom. Tonight ends it, Senator. It had better. A pause. A cigar lighter clicked. And Marchetti, both of them, Senator. The gas line in the underground garage. When his car pulls in, the whole structure comes down. 2 casualties confirmed. And the FBI, Reyes, has the file ready. The story will be Marchetti's enemies, a rival family. He will be arrested by sunrise. Good. A long pause. Then the senator said the thing. Vito. 10 years ago you brought me a problem. Declan Callahan, an accountant who had found my name in the books. A nobody. You handled him. You handled him cleanly. Tonight you handle his daughter. And then this is over. Do you understand? This is over. Yes, Senator. 10 years, Vito. 10 years I have been waiting for the last Callahan to die. Yes, Senator. Make her watch him die first. He stole something from me when he took her in. I want him to watch her go first. Yes, Senator. Bridget Callahan did not move. Bridget Callahan did not breathe. She felt 10 years of grief gather inside her chest like a thunderhead. Bridget was somewhere else. Bridget was in a morgue at the age of 18, looking down at her father's face. Bridget was in her bedroom at the age of 19, pulling up the floorboards. Brigid was here, 28 years old, in a ruby velvet dress, hearing the man who killed her father tell another man to kill her tonight. She stood up. She did not walk fast. She did not run. She walked across the ballroom with the grace of a woman who had been trained for years to never break composure. She found Rafe at the bar. She slipped her hand into the crook of his elbow. She squeezed his arm 3 times. 3 squeezes was their signal. 3 squeezes meant the knife is in the dark, and I have found it. Rafe excused himself. He walked her to a service corridor behind the kitchen. He closed the door. He took her face in his hands. Tell me, Hollister what? Hollister killed my father. Hollister gave the order. Vito Albano did it. Hollister has been protecting himself for 10 years by killing anyone who got close. He is the one. He is the one, Rafe. Rafe's face went still. Then it went pale. Hollister, and there is more. Tell me, the underground garage. They have rigged a gas line. They are going to blow it when our car pulls in. Both of us. Together. Vito is running the plan. Reyes has a story ready. They are going to arrest you posthumously. Frame a rival family. Rafe stared at her. He stared at her for 2 full seconds. Reyes. Yes, federal agent Reyes. Yes, Reyes works for Hollister. Yes. He closed his eyes. He laughed. It was a terrible laugh It was the laugh of a man who has just figured out that for 10 years the trail had not gone cold by accident. Brigid. Yes, we need to change the plan. Yes, he pulled out his phone. He dialed Tomas. He spoke in Italian. Fast. Hard. Then English. 3 names, 2 locations. 1 time. He hung up. You go upstairs to the suite. Right now. The hotel manager owes me a favor. He will lock the floor. No, Brigid. No, Rafe. Brigid. I am going to the garage. Brigid. No, Rafe. She put her hands on his chest. She felt the diamonds at her throat. She felt the velvet on her skin. She felt the small holster Tomas had built into the inside of her left thigh, where it strapped against her garter. I am the only person Vito Albano does not see coming. He thinks I am still a waitress. He thinks I am a fat girl in a fancy dress. He thinks I cannot shoot. He thinks I am a soft target. He has been wrong about me for 6 weeks, and he does not know it yet. I am the only person in this hotel who can walk into that garage without making him reach for his gun. Brigid. Rafe. He took my father from me. He has been hunting me my entire adult life, and I did not know it. I am owed this. You know I am owed this. Do not take this from me. He looked at her. He looked at her the way a man looks at the last warm thing in a cold world. He pressed his forehead to hers. You will not go alone, I know. Tomas comes with you, I know. And I come right behind you, I know. Brigid, yes, do not die. I will not die. He kissed her for the first time. On the mouth, properly. It was not a romantic kiss. It was a kiss like a vow. It was a kiss like a knife. Then she pulled away. She straightened the diamonds at her throat. She lifted her chin. She walked into the elevator with Tomas behind her, and the doors closed. The underground garage at the Drake Hotel had 3 levels. The lowest level was for valet only. 12 cars at a time. Cement walls. Low ceilings. The kind of place that had been built in 1924 and had not been renovated since. Brigid stepped out of the elevator. The garage was empty. Almost. Vito Albano was leaning against a black Mercedes near the far wall. He was smoking. He looked up when the elevator dinged. He saw her. He smiled. Miss Callahan, Mr. Albano, you are alone. Yes, that is unwise, maybe. Tomas was behind a concrete pillar 12 feet to her right. Vito could not see him. She walked toward Vito, slow, heavy, her velvet skirt whispering on the concrete. She stopped 10 feet from him. She tilted her head. Mr. Albano, I came down here to tell you my name, your name, my full name. The one I have not used in 3 years. He laughed. Miss Callahan, I know your name. You know one of them. She paused. My mother named me Brigid. My father named me his bridie. But there is a name you should know better than that, because my father said it to you once. before you killed him. 10 years ago, in a parking lot on Cermak Road, at 6 in the morning. She paused again. She watched Vito's face. She watched it twitch, just a small twitch, the corner of his right eye. My name is Brigid Callahan. I am the daughter of Declan Callahan. And I have come down here to look you in the face. Vito Albano's smile died. His cigarette fell from his hand. His right hand started to move toward his jacket. He was fast. He was not fast enough. Brigid Callahan reached under her ruby velvet skirt. She drew the Smith & Wesson shield from the holster. She brought it up in a clean, two-handed grip. Front sight. Press the trigger straight back. Do not jerk. She put 2 rounds in Vito Albano's chest. She put 1 round through Vito Albano's throat. Vito Albano went down hard, on his back, on the concrete, his Rolex president hitting the cement and making a small bright sound. He did not move again. For a long moment the garage was silent, except for the buzz of the fluorescent lights. Then footsteps. From the far stairwell, Senator Reginald Hollister came around the corner. He had a pistol in his hand, a small one, a .38. He was breathing hard. He had heard the shots. He saw Vito Albano on the floor. He saw the woman in the ruby velvet dress standing over him. He froze. You, Senator Hollister. I have wanted to meet you for 10 years. He raised the pistol. He was 68 years old. He was a senator. He was not a shooter. He was too slow. Brigid did not shoot him. Brigid put 2 rounds through his right kneecap. Senator Reginald Hollister screamed. He went down. He clutched his shattered knee. He howled. The howl bounced off the cement walls. Brigid walked over. She kicked the .38 away from his hand. It skittered under a parked car. She crouched down. Slow, careful. She looked Senator Reginald Hollister in the face. You told Vito to make me watch him die first. You said my father stole something from you when he found your name in the books. Senator, do you know what my father stole? Hollister was crying. He was crying and bleeding, and his $1,000 suit was ruined. Please. My father stole your alibi, Senator. My father stole the name of every bank you used, the name of every offshore shell, the name of every judge you bought, the name of every cop you owned. My father wrote all of it down. He wrote all of it in a leather notebook. He hid the notebook in a safety deposit box at First Federal of Chicago. And then he gave the key to a daughter he loved. He gave it to a daughter you thought was too fat and too stupid to use it. She paused. She leaned closer. Senator, I have used the key. His face went the color of old milk. No, yes, Senator. 3 weeks ago. Tomas drove me to First Federal. I opened box 1147. I emptied it. I had the contents scanned. I had copies sent to 4 newspapers. I had copies sent to the Department of Justice in Washington. I had copies sent to 3 federal judges in 3 different states. The copies have time been delayed instructions. If I do not call those offices by 10 a.m. tomorrow morning to stop them, the story breaks at noon. The story is your name, with my father's handwriting, with your bank accounts, with every dead body you have paid for in the last 20 years. She paused. My father did not die for nothing, Senator. My father died because he was a good man who saw what you were. And he prepared. He prepared in case it cost him his life. And it did. And tonight, Senator, tonight you pay him back. Senator Reginald Hollister did not say anything. He could not say anything. He was 68 years old, and he had run out of words. The elevator dinged behind her. Rafe Marchetti stepped out, followed by 6 of his men. All of them armed. Behind them came another sound, sirens. Menins. Brigid stood up. She looked at Rafe. It is done. Are you all right? I am all right. He crossed the garage. He took her face in his hands. He kissed her forehead. Then a voice from the stairwell. FBI. Hands where I can see them. Special Agent Mateo Reyes. He came down the concrete steps with 5 other agents behind him. He had his service pistol out. He was pointing it at Rafe. He saw the senator on the ground. He saw the dead underboss. He saw the woman in the ruby velvet dress holding a Smith & Wesson. Rise hesitated for just 1 second, but 1 second was all Bridget needed. She turned to face him. She did not raise her gun. She raised her left hand instead. She was holding a small black flash drive. Agent Reyes, Miss Callahan, you should know that everything I just told the senator about my father's notebook applies to you too. Everything. Your bank accounts, your offshore shell, the fact that you have been on Senator Hollister's payroll for 11 years, the names of the 3 men you have killed for him, the fact that you are planning to kill me and Rafe Marchetti tonight. She tossed the flash drive to the floor between them. That copy goes to a journalist at the New York Times at noon tomorrow. Unless I make a phone call. Rise did not move. His gun stayed up. Bridget did not flinch. Agent Reyes. Look behind you. He looked at the other 5 FBI agents. They were not pointing their weapons at Rafe Marchetti. They were pointing them at Special Agent Mateo Reyes. The agent closest to Reyes spoke. Mateo, put it down. Internal Affairs has been watching you for 90 days. Miss Callahan called us 6 weeks ago. She has been feeding us everything you have asked her for, and the responses you sent back. We have you on tape ordering the hit tonight. Put the gun down. Special Agent Mateo Reyes did not put the gun down for 5 seconds. Then he put the gun down. His face had gone hollow. He sat down on the concrete floor next to Senator Hollister, and he put his hands behind his head, and he did not say a word. Bridget walked over to Rafe. She put her head against his chest. He held her, the garage filled with police, with FBI, with paramedics, with smoke and shouting. Bridget did not see any of it. She closed her eyes. She listened to Rafe Marchetti's heartbeat. She breathed in. She breathed out. She breathed out 10 years of grief. The story broke at noon the next day. It did not break in 4 newspapers. It broke in 14. The Tribune ran it on the front page. The Times ran it on the front page. The Washington Post ran it above the fold. Senator Reginald Hollister, arrest in mob murder plot. The articles ran for 3 days straight, then a week, then a month. The senator was indicted on 46 counts, including murder for hire. His wife filed for divorce on the morning of the indictment. His son refused to attend the arraignment. Special Agent Mateo Reyes pled guilty within 10 days. Vito Albano was buried in a closed casket in a cemetery in Cicero. 3 people attended. None of them were Marchettis. Rafael Marchetti was never charged with a crime in connection to the events at the Drake Hotel. The 2 people who could have testified against him were Vito Albano, who was dead, and Senator Reginald Hollister, who had bigger problems. Bridget Callahan was not charged either. The federal prosecutors who reviewed the case quietly determined that the deaths of Vito Albano and Carlo Falcone had been self-defense. The American public did not care about Bridget Callahan. The American public cared about the senator, which was exactly the way Bridget wanted it. Frank Bellini, the kitchen manager at Marchetti's Trattoria, gave one interview to the Chicago Tribune the week after the arrests. He said he had worked at the restaurant for 22 years. He said he had seen many things. He said he was retiring. He moved to Florida. 6 weeks later, 3 weeks after the gala, Nora Callahan received a kidney. The donor was a 34-year-old man from Wisconsin who had died in a motorcycle accident on a Saturday morning. The hospital called Nora at home at 4 in the afternoon. Bridget was sitting on the couch in her mother's apartment, holding her mother's hand when the phone rang. Nora answered. Nora listened. Nora put down the phone. Nora looked at her daughter. Bridie, yes. Ma, they have a kidney for me. Bridget did not cry. She had stopped crying somewhere between the garage and the hospital. Now she just laughed. She laughed, and she hugged her mother, and she felt for the first time in 10 years like the weight on her chest had lifted enough to let her breathe. Tillian Callahan got into Northwestern. He got into Harvard too, and Yale, and Stanford. He chose Northwestern because it was close to his mother and his sister and the city he had grown up in. He started in the fall, pre-law. He wanted to be a federal prosecutor. He told his sister he wanted to put men like Hollister away for the rest of his life. His sister did not argue with him. His sister thought he would be a very good prosecutor. The trial of Senator Reginald Hollister took 11 months. Brigid did not testify. She did not have to. Her father's notebook did the testifying for her. 240 pages of handwritten evidence, bank accounts, wire transfers, names, dates, locations, cross-referenced, indexed, done with the patient hand of an accountant who had built his case the way an accountant builds anything, one column at a time. Until the numbers spoke for themselves, the Department of Justice spent 3 months simply transcribing it. The prosecutors brought 46 charges. Hollister's lawyers tried to plea. The Department of Justice declined. The trial began in March. It lasted 4 months. The jury deliberated for 6 hours, guilty on all counts. The sentence was handed down in late July, life without the possibility of parole. To be served at ADX Florence, the federal Supermax facility in Colorado, Senator Reginald Hollister entered that facility on August 14th. He was 69 years old. He would die there. Tillian called his sister from a payphone outside the courtroom. "It's done, Bridie. Tell me the sentence. Life. All counts. All counts." She did not say anything for a long moment. She was standing in the kitchen of the estate. She was making bread. Her hands were covered in flour. Agnes had been teaching her. She had taken to it the way some women took to gardening. She set the dough down. She wiped her hands on her apron. Cillian's. Yes, thank you. For going every day. For watching it for me. For making sure he stayed in that chair until the verdict. Bridie. I went because I wanted to. I went for Da, I know. He would have wanted me there, I know. She hung up the phone. Agnes came in. Agnes saw her face. Agnes did not say a word. Agnes just walked over and put her arms around Brigid and held her. Brigid put her head on the older woman's shoulder. She did not cry. She just stood there, with flour on her apron and a head full of dead men and quiet justice. And after a long minute, she said, "Agnes, yes, my girl, it is over. Yes, my girl. It is over. Do you know what comes after over? Yes, my girl, I do. What, you decide." Brigid stood back. She looked at the older woman. She looked at the kitchen. She looked at the dough on the counter that needed to be folded. She picked up the dough. She folded it. She kept making bread, because that was what came after over, a home, a life that was hers. The autumn came early that year. The leaves on the maples around the estate turned in late September. Brigid walked the driveway every morning with Rafe. They drank their coffee while they walked. They did not talk much. They did not need to. It was on one of those walks in early October that Rafe stopped suddenly. He turned to her. He looked at her in a way she did not understand. "Brigid, yes, there is something I have not told you." Her stomach tightened. "What is it?" "It is not bad. It is just something I have been carrying. And I would like to set it down." She nodded. He took her hand. He kept walking. "Your father. The night before he died. He came to see me." She stopped walking. She stared at him. "What?" "He came to my apartment. The one I lived in then, on the Gold Coast. It was 11 o'clock at night. He was not afraid. He was calm. He had brought a small leather satchel with him. Brigid felt her pulse in her ears. "You never told me this. I am telling you now, because I have lived with it for 10 years and I have decided that you are owed it." She stood very still. "Keep going." He sat down at my kitchen table. He took the satchel off his shoulder. He set it on the table between us. He looked at me and he said, "Raphael, I am going to die in the next 3 days. I want you to know that. I am telling you because you are the only man in this city who might survive the people who are going to kill me. And I am telling you because I need a favor. Brigid put her hand over her mouth. What favor? He asked me 3 things. The first was that I was not to look in the satchel. He said the satchel was for someone else. He said the satchel was already on its way to a bank vault, and what I had in my hand was just a copy he had brought to prove it existed. He said the bank would deliver the key to his daughter on her 21st birthday in a sealed envelope from his lawyer. Brigid's eyes widened. That envelope, you got it, on my 21st birthday. I was at community college. The lawyer dropped it off at the apartment. I thought it was a Christmas savings bond. It was a key. It was the key, she breathed. What was the second thing he asked you? He asked me not to come after the men who killed him. He said, Raphael, if you go to war for me, you will get yourself killed, and then there will be no one left to do the second favor. So promise me you will not move. You will not retaliate. You will let them think they won. And you will wait. Wait for what? Rafe smiled. It was the smallest smile. Wait for you. Brigid sat down. Right there, in the gravel, in the middle of the driveway. In her good coat, Rafe knelt down next to her. He did not touch her. He just waited. After a long moment she spoke. The third thing was the favor, he said. Raphael, I have a daughter. She is 18 years old. She is the strongest person I have ever known. She will come for the truth one day. She will not stop. She will be slow about it. She will be patient. She will find her way to your restaurant. And on the day she does, I am asking you to leave the door open. Do not shut her out. Do not let her get killed for asking the wrong questions. Let her in. Let her see. Let her find what she needs to find. Brigid put her face in her hands. He knew I would come. He knew you would come, and he could not tell you the name of the man who killed him. He could not tell me. He said the man who was going to kill him had too much reach. He said if I knew the name, I would die within a week. He said the only person who could safely carry that name to the surface was a daughter that no one would ever take seriously. A daughter the system would underestimate. A daughter the senator would dismiss. So your father made the only choice he had. He left the name in the vault, with the key, with the time, with his patient little girl. He bet on you, Brigid. He bet everything on you. Brigid did not cry, but her shoulders shook. She breathed through it for a long minute. Then she lifted her head. Why did you not tell me sooner? Because the timing mattered. If I had told you the first night you were in my house, you would have thought I was manipulating you. If I had told you 6 months in, you would have thought I was hiding it from you. There was no good time, so I waited until the work was done. Until the senator was in a cell, until your mother was well, until your brother was settled. And then I waited a little longer. To make sure the telling was for you and not for me, Brigid looked at this man. This man who had carried her father's last conversation in his pocket for 10 years. This man who had built her a place to land before she had even known she was falling. This man who had let her hunt him for 3 years and never once tried to stop her. She reached out. She took his face in her hands. She kissed him on the forehead, then on each cheek, then on the mouth. She did not say, I love you. She said something better. Rafe, yes, you kept your word, I tried. You kept your word for 10 years, to a dead man, who had no way to make sure you would. Yes, that is who you are. That is who I try to be. That is who you are. She stood up. He stood up. They kept walking. The driveway curved. The house came into view. Agnes was on the front steps. She was sweeping. She was always sweeping. She looked up when they came around the bend. She did not wave, but she nodded, and Brigid nodded back. That was how this family worked, in nods, in quiet, in doors held open for 10 years until the right person walked through. 6 months later, on the first night of snow, Brigid stood on the balcony of the estate. She wore a heavy wool sweater, a blanket over her shoulders, cup of tea in her hands. Rafe came out onto the balcony. He stood next to her. He did not say anything for a long minute. Then he said, "Are you happy?" Yes, just yes, just yes. No qualifier. He smiled. He kissed the side of her head. The snow kept falling. Big slow flakes. The kind that came down on the first night of winter and made everything quiet. Inside the house, her mother was humming. The same way Nora had hummed when Bridget was a child, folding linens, folding peace. Down at the stables, the new black mare named Sesta stood quiet in her stall. The horse Rafe had bought Bridget for her birthday. The horse for being looked at in a federal supermax in Colorado. An old man in an orange jumpsuit lay on a steel cot and counted the hours until lights out. Bridget Callahan Marchetti closed her eyes. She thought of her father, the morning he had bought her the magnet from Wisconsin Dells. The afternoon he had handed her a leather notebook and a pencil and told her to write down what people forgot. The kitchen at the apartment in Bridgeport, the smell of him, the sound of him, the man. She thought of the daughter he had bet everything on, the daughter who had walked into a Mafia restaurant in a cheap polyester uniform with a name that was not her own. The daughter who had been the only person in the room who saw the white powder fall, the daughter who had refused to die, the daughter who had used the key. She opened her eyes. The snow kept falling. Rafe kissed the top of her head. She leaned into him. She did not say anything. She did not need to. Inside her chest, the small bright lamp of her father glowed steady and warm. She had everything she needed. She had everything. The end.